Nashville. It's the capital of the state of Tennessee. It's known for its live music, some country music and all of that. And today it's where we race. Well, technically the race was in Lebanon, which is about 30 minutes away, but it's called Nashville Superspeedway. A lot of NASCAR tracks are not actually in the city that they are named after, but close enough, right? Well, Nashville is also known for its hot chicken. Spicy chicken, Nashville hot chicken. Today, the drivers were the Nashville hot chicken as it was a blazing hot day today in Nashville. If you want some conversion, it was 94 degrees Fahrenheit outside. I think it even got to 95 during the race. They ran this in the heat of the day. I don't know why. I don't know what TV executive made that decision, but I hope they were outside sitting in the stands for this race, knowing what decision they made. And the Cup race is in the heat of the day tomorrow as well. I went to this race last year when it was a night race. The first hour was in the sun, and it was pretty brutal, so I don't know why this is not a night race for Xfinity and Cup. Side rant, irrelevant. There's a reason I probably don't make these decisions, but it just blows my mind. But 95 degrees, which is about 34 degrees Celsius, but that was just on the outside, and that's not even including the feels like, the heat index, humidity, if you're on the track, if you're a pit crew member on the concrete, that's not even including that. But when you were a driver, if you were in the race car, NBC had a measurement tracker or a temperature tracker in one of the cars today, and it read almost 130 degrees Fahrenheit, which is equal to 54.4 degrees Celsius. I mean, just brutal conditions today in Nashville. I think it's going to be brutally hot tomorrow. But yes, extremely hot conditions. Drivers have cool suits on them where essentially they've got all these little tubes going throughout this cool suit on their chest and I think their back as well. And essentially what it does is they plug it in somewhere in the car and water flows through. It goes through this little thing. It cools down the water and it cools down the driver. It gives the driver cool water on their body so that they can, keep temperature, not overheat, not pass out while they're driving, essentially. A lot of drivers opt to wear that, but the problem is if that cool suit breaks, there's hot water pumping through you the entire race, and that makes it more brutal because the water heats up, and then you're soaked in completely hot, boiling water, essentially. And that happened to Riley Herbst, Noah Gragson, amongst Jesse Love, amongst a few other drivers. So brutal conditions here today at Nashville. Thankfully, it was a pretty tame race. Only one caution for cause when Ty Gibbs got spun out by Justin Allgaier. Other than that, just stage cautions. John Hunter Nemechek won another Xfinity race. Look how shocked I am. He's really good at this Xfinity Series stuff. As for Shane Van Gisbergen, his first ever trip to Nashville Superspeedway, well, actually, that is inaccurate. I have just made an inaccurate statement. Last year, 1 year ago this weekend, Shane Van Gisbergen actually made his first full weekend appearance with a NASCAR team. No, he didn't drive. No, he didn't race. But last year, he was at this race weekend to do some press, to follow Trackhouse Racing, learn how they operated, learn how the team works, and learn what a NASCAR Cup Series race is like from the inside, because the next week he would be going to Chicago for the street race, which of course that's the same schedule this year. We go to Chicago next week. So really this is the 1 year anniversary of where it began in a sense for Shane Van Gisbergen. He was at this race last year, the Cup Series race that is, but he was there the entire weekend shadowing, learning everything there was to know about behind the scenes of a NASCAR Cup Series weekend. But as for this weekend, it was his first time on track. He qualified 28th in this race at the 1.33 mile track, or 2.14 kilometers, 14 degrees of banking in the turn, all four turns. Speaking is hard sometimes. And then on the front stretch, there's a little bit of banking, 9 degrees. And even on the back stretch, 6 degrees, but the front stretch more banked on this tri-oval. Now, the Xfinity race or series has raced at this track for quite a few years. They took a little bit of a break before coming back in 2021. The Cup Series has only raced here since 2021. So somewhat fresh start in a sense, but this is year 4 of this racetrack for the Xfinity Series once again. So everyone essentially knows what they're doing for the most part. But as I said, Shane Van Gisbergen qualified 28th in this race, and as every other race goes at the drop of the green flag, just went backwards a little bit into the 30s, but was only there for a handful of laps. Was able to make his way up to 27th, a short stage 1, only 45 laps, and he finished 27th in that stage. Nothing of note outside of that. He was able to pass a couple cars back. Then at the end of the stage, came down pit road, got 4 fresh tires, and the pit crew made him up a few spots. Actually restarted inside the top 25. I think he restarted 21st, I want to say. If not, it was 21st, 22nd, 23rd, somewhere in there. And he fell back a couple positions on that restart, but unlike the past few races, or unlike really the majority of his oval career so far, usually what we see is stage 1, start in the mid to late 20s, fall back, and then go back to essentially where you qualified, make up a spot or 2 on pit road, fall back again, get back to where you were, and then stage 3 is where he really starts making progress. Well, today, it was a little bit of a different story. Stage 1 was essentially the same, as I said, but stage 2 picked up positions on pit road. As I said, that's kind of normal, but once he was able to make up positions, he kept going forward. He finished stage 2 in the top 20. He finished 18th in stage 2. We usually don't see him sitting in the top 20 until stage 3, but he ran in the top 20 the majority of this race, ran 18th to 20th, really the majority of this thing. And then by stage 3 was able to make up more positions. We'll get up to that in a minute. But ends up finishing stage 2 in 18th. And this is the one problem I would say they had today, and it was such an isolated incident, is that there was someone ahead of them on the track. I'm not sure who, but they would pit before the 97, so Shane Van Gisbergen had to take kind of an awkward angle into his pit stall, and it would cost him a tenth of a second, a couple tenths of a second. But there was one pit stop at the end of stage 2 that it significantly cost him. And they went from 18th at the end of that stage, and they ended up restarting 21st or 22nd, just because I could kind of see him on the TV. It looked like when he turned in, he had to hesitate, turn back out, and turn in again, just to make a sharper cut into the pit box, make sure he could get in there properly. So just a little bit of an awkward angle. You got to get around the car. You got to stop in the box properly. And so therefore, he just really... that just kind of messed him up there, and so he lost a couple of positions on pit road that one time. But as I said, he restarted 21st on that restart, fell back to about 23rd or so, but once again, just like I said earlier, started making up spots as soon as everything kind of settled down. Got his way back up into the top 20, got the 19th, 18th, 17th, 16th. So he was running in the top 20, as I said, the majority of this race. But then he cracked into the top 15. He was sitting at 15th for a bit, lost a spot and was in 16th for a bit. And then a caution came with about 50 laps to go right before green flag pit stops were about to start. And once again, made up a couple of positions on pit road, restarted 14th or 15th. I think he came out of the pits 14th, but he ultimately chose the inside line at the choose cone. And so he restarted 15th, and he essentially ran there the rest of the race. He might have lost a position every now and then and make one back up, but essentially he ran 15th or 16th, even got up to 14th at one point, and finished 15th in this race. There really wasn't much to it. As I said, there was no alternate strategy that they could have run. There was no weird timed cautions. There was no incidents to avoid, incidents to be a part of. I mean, seriously, this is the most uneventful Xfinity race that's happened this year that I can remember, and it was essentially the same for Shane Van Gisbergen. I listed his one incident, and it wasn't even an incident. It was just he had to kind of hesitate to get into his pit box because he had to go at a weird angle. Like, there really was not much to this race, but another impressive top 15 run. In fact, Trackhouse Racing made a social media post, and they said that is the 10th top 15 finish for Shane Van Gisbergen this year. And that's been his story this year. We say this every single week. You guys are probably tired of me saying it, but it's just what he does. You know, he doesn't have a lot of experience on these ovals. He doesn't have a lot of experience at certain types of these ovals. So when he gets in the car, he just wants to learn what the track's like. He wants to learn how the car's going to race on certain tracks. He wants to get as many laps in. So come years in, when they're in the playoffs, he can be a little bit more aggressive. And so there's no point in going out and making an over-aggressive move on lap 25 and wrecking yourself and, you know, costing yourself and your team experience, learning opportunities. So once again, that's just been the story this year. But today seemed like it was a little bit better. They ran top 20 the majority of the race versus running 21st to 25th at the early parts of stage 2 and even middle parts of stage 2. They ran top 20 the majority of this race, end up with a 15th place finish. I'm curious to see where the points play out. Still sitting outside of the top 10 in points. You get some bonus playoff points for that. But I think I forgot to mention this earlier in the video, but Tuesday is the 1-year anniversary of Shane Van Gisbergen's win at Chicago. And so in honor of that, well, and also in honor of getting 5,000 subscribers on the channel, and I know there's a lot of Australian and New Zealand viewers out there, I'm going to be reacting to some Shane Van Gisbergen Supercars highlights. I will be working on that on Monday and Tuesday morning. I'll release that sometime late Tuesday, but I finally got the new laptop so I can actually do it, you know? So, yeah, it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys enjoy it too. I hope you enjoyed this video. We do this every week. Cup Series race tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a hot one for that one too. If you're going to the racetrack, please be careful. Please hydrate up. Please bring water, whatever you got to do. It was so hot last year and the race started at 6 p.m. The race starts at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow and it's going to end at 6 p.m. Like, it's going to be brutal. So please be safe. Please be careful. Please stay hydrated. I don't know why this race is in the heat of the day in Nashville in late June, but someone made that decision. I really don't know who, but I would like to talk to him because I'm very curious to why.